Hello and welcome to Unwind Sessions, where right after my shift, I give the highlights of my workday and answer any questions that might have been asked on the previous sessions on or comments that might have been added. My name is Juan. I am an English Spanish medical video remote interpreter with over 4 years of experience. Today is Tuesday, April 20th, 2021. Today I took a total of 37 calls. It was a mix between video sessions and audio sessions, but this time I was lucky enough to have much more audio sessions than video sessions. It was still a tough day though, because we were back to back today, one call after another. We would just hang up one call, then we would just have your rest period, and then our call would just come in right after that. So yeah, um, it was a little hard today, but nothing out of the ordinary. And another thing is that I have not been used to working back to back for a while. It's been pretty laid back, but right now we did have completely back to back, so it was a little tough today, but nothing that I haven't done before. So to start up today, one thing that happened today is that I was about to interpret for a doctor, and in the middle of my utterance, I accidentally hit the erase button on my LCD board. Which, if you're not familiar with an LCD board, let me show you what I use for work, which is this one. You could practically just like write on it and then erase what you wrote. I don't know if you can see that there, but you write and then like when you press this button, it like automatically erases everything. So the doctor was giving his utterance, and in the middle of his utterance, I actually accidentally hit the erase button. This had never happened before. But luckily, I was able to remember everything the doctor said except for one thing. I remember that he was talking to a lady. It was almost the end of the session, telling her when she had to return for the baby's 2 month um, well-being checkup. So what I actually said, I thought I remembered the whole thing, and I didn't ask for a repetition, and I told the lady that she needed to come back when the baby was 2 months. And then the lady asked if she would be coming back in 2 weeks. When she asked this, and I automatically remembered that that was included in the doctor's utterance, and I did not remember that. But it was not that important because the baby would have been 2 months in 2 weeks, so it was the same thing. It was just a minor omission. But in hindsight, I should have asked for a repetition, and I hope that never happens again. But if it does, I am not going to try my luck. I mean, this time it wasn't very important, and it wasn't that long, and I was able to remember the most important bits. But I would suggest that, uh, as I will do in the future, I will ask for a repetition if that ever happens again. And one thing that I noticed, this is related to that memory retention. One thing that happened to me lately, it was probably like about a month ago. I was doing one of our practice videos or interpreting practice videos with, I was showing one of our team members who's not an interpreter. I was showing him how it works, and I was actually not using notes because I didn't have notes with me at that time. And I remember I was able to do like the first, I don't remember what video it was, but I was able to do like the first four utterances without notes. And then on the last utterance that I actually did, I remember that as I was hearing what was being said, I like imagine like a little gauge in my head, and as each word was being said, I could actually like gauge like all of a sudden like every word that was said, I could gauge that I could actually remember it until it actually got to the word, and then like just after that little word, like everything just fell apart. And I told my friend, I told him, you know what, I'm not going to be able to interpret this without notes. But that was very strange. That had never happened to me before. Of course, I had never tried it, but it was strange how I could actually measure like how far I could actually remember the words. And once it just got over that word, like everything just fell away in my imagination. I knew I wasn't going to remember that. So that was something funny. That was funny to me, something that had never happened before, and I wanted to tell you about this. So maybe some of you could actually try that, and that will give you like a better gauge with your memory. I know it helped me, and I didn't know that. That's the way that I thought about it, and it actually will help you to know how you actually think about things, your memory retention, so that you can actually improve upon it. All right, so moving on, another thing that happened today is that a provider was pronouncing daughter as doctor, or something that sounded very similar to doctor, but more a doctor than daughter, and that created like a little confusion between the patient and the the provider, of course, because I was saying doctor, but the gentleman actually said daughter. So it was like a two, three utterances in confusion until I caught up and I was able to fix the situation. And another thing that happened today is that I learned a new word. Is Seton. And in Spanish, that would be Seton. Let me give you the um, um, the Spanish interpretation for that. I'm sorry. Let me give you the definition for that. And seton is a piece of surgical thread that is left in the fistula for several weeks to keep it open. This allows it to drain and help it heal, while avoiding the need to cut the sphincter muscles. Loose setons allow fistulas to drain, but do not cure them. So this was a word that I came across today, and was I tried to look for it, but Lingui did not give me an interpretation for it. So I got confused, and I told the provider if he could please spell it for me, and he was nice enough to spell it for me. He said Seton, and that was the way that I have spelled it. So I had to look it up in Google, and I was able to find it pretty fast, and that's what I did with this word. So I actually told the provider if he could wait a little bit because I didn't know the interpretation for that, and of course Google helped. Sometimes I really hate it that sometimes Lingui doesn't give you the words that you need, but I mean it's not perfect, but it's just so hard sometimes. But anyways, I was able to find the word, and I was able to go ahead. I was able to finish this session very well. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is a gentleman that actually was speaking in. Well, the first utterance he ever mentioned to me was very long. It was long. It filled up my whole LCD board. And when he was finished speaking, the provider told me, interpreter, can you tell the gentleman if he could speak in shorter segments, please, because you have to interpret to me? And I told the lady, of course, I will do so. And might I add that longer segments are less accurate than shorter segments, and if he wants everything to be said accurately, for him to use shorter segments. And she said, yeah, go ahead and tell him all that. And I went ahead and I told him all of that. And then I just interpreted for the provider what the gentleman had said. And one thing that struck me by surprise is that the gentleman actually understood a lot of English and he would answer in a pretty good English. So I think like it felt like if he was testing me because most of his segments were also pretty long, not as long as the first one, but they were quite lengthy. And I felt like I was being tested. Like I was like this session felt like it was testing my memory retention, but I did very well. There were no complaints from the gentleman, so I was happy with the way that I went ahead and finished that session. Uh, what I also want to mention from this session is that you should not be afraid to remind people that they need to speak in shorter segments for high accuracy. If you happen to come across a person that is just speaking too much or giving you so much information that you know you're not going to be able to interpret very accurately. Like you know you're going to be able to interpret the whole thing, but you might miss one or two things or several things. Then it's a good idea and good practice to remind the person that you are going to need shorter segments for higher accuracy and remind them like this is a very important piece of that reminder, telling them that the longer the utterance, the harder it is going to be for you to remember everything that was said precisely as was said, and that they would actually require shorter segments for you to actually to be able to recall every utterance, excuse me, with the highest precision. So I hope this helps some of you. And that is going to be pretty much it for me today. Please leave your questions on the comments and I will answer some of them on the next session. I will be working tomorrow, so I will be having a session tomorrow. So, for a reminder, I want to let you know that I'm gonna be here every Monday through Friday, right after work. And I would like to thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you liked the video and have not done so for more content. And don't forget to share. Happy interpreting. Goodbye.